Admiral, welcome to IFRI, the French Institute for Foreign Relations. You are the director of the Norwegian Intelligence, so thank you for being here. And so a few questions for you. First of all, what is your assessment of Russia's intent in Ukraine and also more generally in Europe, and how should the response be?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's a pleasure being here and being able to contribute to this exchange of ideas. When it comes to Russia's intent in Ukraine, I think that hasn't changed since the beginning of 2022. They want full control of Ukraine. That means also demilitarize Ukraine, and they use the term denazify, which we term or understand as the possibility of removing anybody that objects to the Russian agenda. So that is we believe that goal still stands. Russia may have to spend more time than they envisioned, but the goal is there. When it comes to Europe in broad, I think it's worth listening to President Putin's speeches when he talk about history and the right of the Russia to control its near abroad and the threats it perceives it has from the West and why it needs to protect itself. So I think listening to Putin, you understand that he wants to redefine European security architecture into the advance of Russia.
And so what do you think the European response should be?
Oh, the Europeans, we need to understand that it is primarily our problem. Russia is our neighbor. Of course, it is of great importance and fantastic with US support, and that is particularly important in the short run. But Europe needs to take more responsibility. And this is, and let me again use Kissinger as an example, this is a conflict that cannot be resolved, it has to be managed, which means we need to be firm, we need also to be strong enough to deter Russia from trying anything like this again.
Talking still about Russia, can you tell us about the shadow fleet importance for Russia? What is, the use of this shadow fleet that we see very often in the Baltic Sea and elsewhere?
Well, the Russian economy is very dependent on export of hydrocarbons, oil and gas. More than 1/3 of their export income is from that area. And currently, 84% of all the export of oil goes on ships connected to the shadow fleet. And the shadow fleet is typically ships that are old, poorly maintained, very unclear ownership. They change owners several times on the passage, unclear insurance, often poorly maintained and sometimes do not follow international standards. So this substandard fleet is crucial for Russian economy. And it poses a challenge to the West because it is a way to avoid sanctions. While they export oil, they offload their oil to other ships and then can take it into the market as something else than Russian oil. They unload it in refineries that mix it with other oil and then sell to max price. So it's a sanction evasion. It's also obviously a security problem because of the age. And it also changes the competition. So respectable ship owners will find it hard to compete with this substandard and then therefore cheap fleet.
Maybe talking about the Arctic, since Norway is part of the Arctic Council. Can you tell us a little bit about the new geopolitical realities in the region?
I think the reality started changing in 2014 with the invasion of Crimea and Donbass. A lot of the relationships were frozen, and particularly on the military cooperation. We did exercises with the Russians, we talked a lot with them, we exchanged Coast Guard inspectors. That was toned down, and after the full-scale invasion in February of 22, more or less all cooperation ceased. Russia was expelled from most cooperative arenas. There is no cooperation on the Coast Guard. There is maintained a little cooperation on protecting the fish stocks to avoid that being overexploited, and also border issues and search and rescue. But except for that, There is hardly any trade at all going back and forth. Russian ships were excluded from Norwegian harbors except for 3, where they have very strict limitations on what they can do, and that is linked to be able to manage the fish stocks. But except for that, there is no talk between Russia and Norway. The other major thing is really the conflict in Ukraine, and the conflict between Russia and the West creates a different uncertainty in the Arctic. So we are worried that small incident may escalate fast. So we have to manage the situation very carefully to avoid an increase in tension.
And maybe a last word about the Northern Sea route, which is more and more exploited, notably by Russia. What is the interest of this route?
Well, the good thing about the Northern Sea route, it's a shorter route between Asia and Europe. The problem with it, it's hampered by ice quite a lot. But the ice is receding year by year, so within a few decades, that will be absolutely ice-free in the summer, and another couple of decades, it will probably be ice-free all year round, which means it will be the most convenient and cheapest way of transporting goods between Asia and Europe. Opens up for a lot of business opportunities, infrastructure, etc., but also the risk of accidents and things like that. But currently, Russia is trying to establish very firm control over the area by using their interpretation of the UNCLOS to make sure that they control it very tightly, even though it should be considered as international straits and international waters and should allow for free trade.
Well, thank you, Admiral, for answering our questions, and welcome to France.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.